Hey there, Matt Wicks from SSW here. I'm here with John Brondum, and we're talking about the architecture of solution architecture. Now, I need to start off by asking, please explain. What do you mean? What do you mean by that?
I mean by that.
Yeah.
It's obviously a little bit of a joke, but it's two things. One was trying to develop a framework and a bit of guidelines to help architects plan their work.
Yep.
So that they don't end up with a single bar of activities that no one can track and communicate what they're actually doing. The other thing was also to demonstrate how you can apply some simple architecture tools and tricks from your own bag to your own job and the way that you sort of structure the way that you've set it up.
So with architects being able to, how do they track the work? I assume that means that they're going to have items on a sprint backlog and they work on them in the sprint, just like a developer picks up a feature request and works on that. How are we talking about the types of work that they're classifying, or like how to classify that type of work, or is there something else in that?
Yes. So what the framework gives some ability to do is classify different activity types. So you might be working on what I call a problem statement. So articulating what is a significant requirement for what impacts your solution.
Mhm.
You also have other activities around actually developing the solution. So you're saying for this kind of requirement, this is the type of solution that I would have. The third activity is around choosing the right technology to implement your solution. One of the key traps obviously a lot of architects fall into is that they equate the technology to the solution, and then it becomes very difficult to evaluate whether one technology is better than the other, because you don't have a solution to benchmark that. And then the fourth activity is around making sure that it meets the non-functional requirements that the solution is to meet. And typically the way you would do that is you pick out problematic ones and work through the trade-off that you need to do. The added benefit with the matrix is that then also allow you to slot design decisions from other people and other squads into your matrix, and allows you to evaluate and assess how does that impact and fit with the other activities that you're planning. So yes, the idea is to be able to have discrete tasks that you can plan out and put into a backlog. Typically you would work through the architecture ahead of the current development sprint.
Yep.
Primarily to give yourself and external stakeholders that you're dependent on for decision and approval or input, give them time to work with you, because they are not in sync with the sprint of the actual program itself. So you can't assume that they're sort of perfectly aligned with the cadence that you're working with. So you need to work ahead to allow for that timing.
So it sounds like they're evaluating a whole bunch of options. They're going out to stakeholders, trying to understand the different requirements. So there's a lot of facilitating conversations.
Yep.
Aggregating all the information, and then I assume that they'd record all this once the decision's been reached. They document that.
Yes. So for a larger project, we sort of looked at the large projects that I worked on. We looked at 3 levels of decision making. One is what we call the enterprise level, where you have to lift decisions out of the project and get them endorsed by the broader organization. Those are the ones that you need the longest lead time, because it takes time to consult wide and deeply, and you have to wait for when the governance meetings are scheduled, typically. But within the program itself, you would then have an architecture team that would work as almost like a squad in of itself, a couple of sprints and maybe a program increment ahead of the main delivery trains. That would then give you allowed to sort of remove all the roadblocks that potentially could stop the cadence of the delivery as you're going through. Because what you want to get to is when you get to the third level, which is the actual squads itself that they're delivering, the architect performs a supporting role, and you have ensured that all the decisions that needs to be made for that sprint can be made by that particular squad and the members in it. So you don't have to effectively kill off the delivery cadence through having to go out to an external governance forum.
So, if like we're talking about architectural decisions, I just wanted to try and clarify that. Are they deciding on the patterns that are going to be put in place, or how different systems are going to talk to each other, all the way down to, hey, this is the technology stack that's going to be used, or is it something in between?
So the way I like to frame it is that if each squad should be empowered to make their own decisions and take control of their own destiny, so to speak. So that means, in principle, they should be able to decide everything. However, there's two categories of decisions that could break that rule. One is if there is a top-down enforcement of certain standard policies or decisions that you have to, you need to bring that into the fold as an architect and help the teams understand what they are and how to use it, and then work through any problems that they may raise for delivery. Again, you need to try and solve that before you get to the actual, final iteration. The other thing is if the squad is empowered to make certain decisions, but a particular decision has a blast radius that goes outside of the authority of that particular squad. So you want to ideally be able to work your way through or plan ahead so you know what those decisions might be and the preemption. But also, if you can't, then you need aides be embedded in your team to understand what those decisions are. Make sure that the squad is known that is actually the decision we need to make. Having worked with the squad in the PR or the planning to make sure they've got backup items to do so they can keep the cadence up, while you, with their support, take the decision to a broader endorsement and sort of acceptance outside of the scope of bond. You could do it a little bit quicker if it's a blast radius contained within the program.
Yep.
Then you can sort of fast iterate that. The really troublesome one is once you get blast radius to land outside of the project itself. So the idea around the matrix that I propose is to give some structure to that forward planning activity to make sure the architects have thought about all of the potential landmines that you could step on through the project.
So in the same way that when you try and organize a meeting with a whole bunch of people, it becomes harder and harder to sync up times.
Correct.
When you're talking about applications, it's you have that multiplier effect as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So are there any any tricks in terms of like what things to avoid or things to aim for when
I think the number one trick that I've seen work the best is spend some time going through the initial scope of project and pick out and exemplify what these significant decisions look like, and communicate and educate your project team, your squads around these are the types of things that you need to know about. Because the reality is the decision making on programs are becoming more and more distributed because the solutions are more and more complex. You get SaaS providers coming in and adding to the solution. So what you want to do is need a way where the teams can effectively be your eyes and ears of everything that's going on in the project, because you can't be everywhere all at once. But what you do need is be able to provide support to pick up on those heavy lifting positions so they don't get left inside the squad. No one knows about it. And then you get to the go live event and everyone goes, why did you do that? Right. So the key thing here is communicate and educate, and there's a continuous effort through the project is tell people what is significant and what are the things you need to watch out for, so you can get everyone to help you do the job.
So if I'm a consultant going into a company, I guess we're trying to identify the core problem statement that's trying to be solved.
Yep.
And that maybe under the umbrella that the company has, they're using Xero for their accounting software. We need to integrate with that in a particular way because we've had because of security reasons or something like that. So it's very clear that this is from the top down.
Yep.
This is the approach we're going to take, and everyone's across. Yeah. As soon as they.
So you need to make sure that people understand it's Xero, the rationale for the Xero, so it doesn't become I don't like this because of technical reasons. There are other factors that goes into those decisions. but also then say, okay, well, is there a standard way that the company has evolved into integrating with that particular company to support operating models or our other themes than just the pure technical? So that context is then fed into a squad and they understand why and how to work with that particular SaaS provider.
Okay. And these types of things, like on projects, we've used ADRs or architectural decision records, like just markdown files where we're recording, hey, we evaluated this, pros and cons, we decided to go for blah because reasons. These would be the types of...
Absolutely. And I think one of the tricks for those decisions records or registers is to make sure that it isn't just for architects.
Yep.
Because one of the things you want to do is you actually want to have the squad. It's in your interest to make the squad the driver and the promoter of that decision, because you then have a better chance of figuring out, okay, well, we can negotiate the right decision. We get buy-in, we get support, so that when and if you have to go outside the program, you got more. The project speaks like one voice. It's not the architect trying to argue with the project team and the external body around X, Y, and Z. So it's about building that buy-in. So the registers that we've run on projects I've worked on has been almost just it's a general register.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are then marked as particularly impacting on the architecture, and therefore there's a separate additional processes and governance that we put around those. But they always originate either through the original business case or standards or the spots themselves. Very rarely are they things that the architect puts out a thing out and pops on, because I felt like it's up. Yeah, we don't want those types of positions. So
yeah. So I quite like how you've said that you want the buy-in. I think back to when I started, and the enterprise architects were the ones with the whiteboards just drawing circles everywhere, and they'd come up with a plan and everyone's going to follow it, and it didn't make any sense because they didn't actually try to do it.
You're absolutely right, because it doesn't. There's so many problems with that model. One person can't possibly know everything.
Yep.
You really want to leverage the combined know-how and intellect and innovation from the entire team.
Mm-hmm.
So you as an architect is really around facilitating that synthesis of decision-making within the squads, so that you can get buy-in, not only just in terms of communicating why we made that decision outwards, but also the buy-in and, more importantly, understanding of why we're doing it this way, and understanding that this is what I meant by that decision. This is how we wanted to implement it, as opposed to, I have no idea what this enterprise architect's doing, but I'll pretend I'm doing something that looks like it.
Yeah. So I'm really thinking that if like after this interview, when I go back to work, I want to be checking to see if we have some sort of living document where it's like, here's how the company operates architecturally.
Yeah.
We've got these are the different systems, and we may have, like, somebody's put an abstraction layer for this service because reasons. We want that recorded so we always know that that abstraction layer is used.
So you want to be explicit about why you make those decisions. Yeah. No, I completely agree. My suggestion is go and check I've got a little summary LinkedIn discussion about it. You can use the matrix to classify what is the type of decision, but if nothing else, be very clear about whether is this a scoping or problem statement, is this a solutioning decision. So I decide to use a database versus I decided to use SQL Server in Azure. Those are two distinct decisions, but make sure that you are explicit around your decision rationale, so that people can go and read on why you made those decisions.
Why the hell did they choose that?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's why. That makes sense.
Or what were they thinking?
Yeah.
No, the thing about developing and working together is that you are not just working together with the people who are there with you at that present time. You are effectively also working together with everyone that comes after you.
The thing I like to tell people is, I write comments in the code, not for someone else to understand my code. It's me in 6 months' time, so I understand.
That's true, yes.
When I look at it again, what was I thinking?
What was I thinking?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the same way we do code comments, we're going to comment on the architecture
Absolutely.
and understand
Absolutely.
the whys and hows.
Absolutely.
Hopefully there's not a big to-do statement there, comment there saying to-do fill this in.
Or comments said, we made this decision before because I said so. Yeah. We don't want to see those either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hack. All right, well, that's been great. So I'll have to check out your matrix to understand the different types of decisions that need to be recorded and then start recording these things. So yeah, looking forward to it. Thanks, John. And this has been Matt from SSW. Thanks for watching.